Hi, everybody. Welcome. Thanks for joining me here on Yin Radio TV. I'm your host, Hillary Raimo. Tonight, I'm going to be talking to Daniel Green, founder and CEO of Mr. Green Energy. He is an avid environmentalist and humanitarian. He is an inventor and leader in the alternative fuel movement. We're going to be talking about how water can be used as fuel. What? You might say, but it's true. He's got some technology he's going to explain to us tonight. So sit back, take a listen. This archive will be available on my YouTube channel, YouTube/Hillary Raimo, by the end of the week. You can also find all of my old archives there as well, going back to 2005. Lots of good stuff. Subscribe today. You can also find more information at yinradiotv.com. And I just returned from Standing Rock Reservation recently. I had a chance to go out there myself, take a look at things, and report on it from an independent perspective, not tied to any strings. And I have some good footage on there, along with some interviews I've done, and some of my articles have been published as well. So lots of good stuff going on. I'm looking forward to talking to Daniel tonight because, well, let's admit it, we got some issues in this country with our fuel situation. And, you know, coming back from the Dakota Access Pipeline protest up in North Dakota, it's really clear people are starting to hopefully wake up to the fact that we need to really do something, get our feet on the ground and get our hands dirty in order to stick up for the land and the water that affects all of us. This is not just a Native American issue or a black issue or a white issue. This is an everyone issue, and the waterways are all connected, and where they're building it will go right down to the Gulf of Mexico, which is already extremely distressed. So welcome, Daniel. Thanks so much for joining me. I'm really excited to hear everything you have to say.
Thank you for having me on. I'm excited to be talking today.
Now, you're coming in all the way from Hawaii. Now, that's where you live. So let's get started by just giving our audience a little bit of information about who you are, where you come from, and how you got started in all of this.
I'm getting a little bit of feedback on my end, but I'll do my best to explain how I stumbled upon this technology. When I moved to Hawaii 11 years ago or so, I was rediscovering myself and trying to figure out what I was going to do, and I came across Stanley Meyerâs' work. And his technology can change the world. And when I looked further into what he did, I discovered that people before him were able to... the feedback's gone, thank you. There's been several inventors for the past 100 years that have been able to run their cars on water. Going back to 1932, a man named Garrett was able to patent a water-fueled carburetor. And you can just go through the whole timeline here and produce strong evidence that suggests that our energy is just controlled. So that's where we are.
Now, you have a background. What is your background in all of this? How did you get to even be able to produce the prototypes necessary for what you call water spark plugs?
Well, my background is in photography, actually. I don't have a degree in engineering or anything of that nature, because if I did, they would tell me that what I'm talking about is not possible. Up until the year 2000, Cambridge put out a white paper called Arc Liberated Energy Exceeds Electrical Input Energy. And I often reference that paper to people that cite Faraday from 100 years ago, stating that it takes more energy to disassociate water than you can retrieve on the back end. Now, see, personally, I don't think that was ever true. I don't think that Faraday consulted Tesla, and resonance wasn't equated into Faraday's equations for splitting water. When you incorporate resonance into your electrical frequency, you can efficiently split water. So what my spark plugs are is nanotechnology that I can't make with my bare hands. What I was able to make with my bare hands, I produced in 2008. And that was a solar-powered, what they call HHO cell. At the time, the technology in the local paper was ridiculed and called science fiction, but 3 years later, Pepsi decided to incorporate HHO kits into their diesel fleet, and they call the technology $3.3 million a year in diesel fuel savings. So simple electrolysis of water with resonance works. It's been proven. It's been documented by major universities such as Cambridge. I can go on. Do you have more questions?
Yeah, well, the reason I'm asking you to give us a little bit of background into your work, I know you have a background in construction and mechanics, and you have a passion for alternative energy, and you've come out with retrofitting a VW van and using this process. So I guess I wanted everybody to have a little bit of background on who you are, where you come from, and what got you into this. Now, what we often hear in this alternative energy field is we have all these great ideas, but we don't have, enough funding, or we don't have enough prototypes, or it's being, suppressed and all of this stuff. What has been your experience in trying to get your technology out into mainstream?
Well, it's very frustrating because people want to see a working prototype, and I understand that. But the water spark plug kit I'm trying to produce, it needs to be done in an engineering lab with actually robots that are making the circuitry that goes inside of the spark plug cells. So this isn't stuff that I or anybody else can go make in their garage. I mean, I've open sourced how this stuff works, like step by step, with circuit diagrams and everything. And I've been very open with how the technology works. If you want to really understand it, I have a little book that I've put out that helps people grasp what's going on inside your spark plug. So, what people don't maybe not understand is we're not running your car completely off of hydrogen made from water. Now, that has been done and claimed to be done by other people, but my spark plug design extracts nitrogen from the air because of 80% of what we breathe in the atmosphere is nitrogen. So the chemical makeup for NH3 or ammonia is 1 part nitrogen and 3 part hydrogen molecules. So within the spark plug, we're essentially disassociating water into the hydrogen, and because HHO will turn right back into water almost immediately if you don't bond the hydrogen to something else. So my research, I discovered hydrogen bonding. I had this aha moment to where if the gas processing circuit in the third part of this spark plug extracts nitrogen from the air, bonds it to the hydrogen made from water, you're essentially making ammonia on demand within the spark plug. That's acting as a fuel injector now. So this is what was called by Stanley Meyerâs as a hydrogen gas injector fuel cell. I've just came up with another easier term and called my design a water spark plug. Now, certainly this isn't my idea. Meyer, Anderson, a Russian gentleman before him, they've all came up with water spark plug type cells. Now, this is where the patent office gets interesting in the United States. You can Google 5,000 patents shelved because they make fossil fuels obsolete. The patent office will declare free energy or any over unity device as a threat to our economy. And our economy is based on a petrodollar system. So that's the conspiracy theory why we don't have water-fueled cars now. Because as stated, you go back to the 30s where the water-fueled carburetor was made.
So we have a long history of this technology being available, and so I guess the layperson who doesn't really understand all of this might ask the obvious question: if you're going to replace fuel with, gasoline fuel with water, in their head they might think, well, how could that be sustainable as a resource? Wouldn't we be using water in the same kind of, context that we're using oil, in the sense it's a finite resource and we're not going to have enough to really go on? So how do you answer that question when people bring that up?
That is the most common question that raises to people's minds when they first hear of this idea, and it's super fair to ask, but you have to realize how much water we use on a daily basis at each coal-fired power plant, at each oil refinery, at each nuclear power station. Each one of these industries consume literally billions of gallons of fresh water from our aquifers on a daily basis. Okay? Now, what I'm proposing doing takes such little water to do that you can extract it from the air in what's called an atmospheric water generator. So if everyone has one of these devices in their home that essentially, creates pure drinking water out of thin air, not only do you have access to clean drinking water, but you have access to the fuel that goes into your tank. So that water can be split into hydrogen and bonded to nitrogen from the air and made as ammonia fuel on demand from your spark plug kit.
Okay, so bear with me while I try to follow along that, just so I can translate this for people who are trying to understand as well, because I'm trying to understand too. So we're not talking about cars pulling up to water tanks and filling up their gas tanks with water. We're talking about
no need. What I'm suggesting is possible for everyone is returning all of the water back to nature that the fossil fuel industry currently uses, and acquiring the moisture you need from the atmosphere to not only drink, but to fuel your car and your home power generator as well. I've had some exciting conversations this morning.
So this is something. Oh, I'm sorry. This is something that people can actually hook up the technology into their homes as well. Did I understand that?
Absolutely. Home power generators that run on gasoline. For example, there's four teenage African girls that performed electrolysis on urine. 1 liter of urine supplied 6 hours of power generation. The reason that was possible is because urine carries that nitrogen, the extra nitrogen in it. So when you perform electrolysis on urine, the hydrogen bonds to the nitrogen immediately and creates an ammonia-based gaseous fuel. So that was fed to a little 5-horsepower generator, and that's 5 horsepower is essentially enough. That's a size generator that'll power your average-sized home. Now, this can obviously be scaled up to large-scale power generation as well. In fact, I would have had my project funded already if I agreed to just sell to the power companies.
So why would they want you to just sell it to the power company and not to the average person? To control it? Well,
because the water spark plug kit, the plans for what I have are designed to go into people's vehicles. With the water spark plug kit, you get a new car stereo that not only works as your car stereo still, but we send amplified resonance to each one of these spark plugs, and the amount of DC current depends on how hard you hit your gas pedal. Okay, so when you turn on the ignition in your car, your new car stereo system is going, okay, I need to send 2,000 volts to each one of my spark plugs. Now I'm turning and priming each spark plug with water, turning it to hydrogen and pulling nitrogen from the air and making a fuel that when you get the little green light on your new car stereo, now you turn your ignition all the way over, and depending on how hard you hit your gas pedal is depending on how many RPMs you're going to get or how fast you're going to go.
So we're actually eliminating, with your technology, you're actually eliminating the need to even go to, say, a gas station or any station, really, to do anything. You just have to turn your car on and let it work with the natural elements.
Therein lies the problem, because our government is essentially ran by taxing us at the gas pump. And now with these new Paris Treaty climate regulations going in, I read this morning that they're going to, quote, enforce these new laws where they're not going to give us any options to use technology that doesn't pollute at all. They're just going to keep mandating carbon-based fuels on us and tax them more on us now. This is their solution. So we have options right now, so it's important.
Well, that's why we're doing this show. We're doing this show to get this out so people can understand what's really going on. So now, did this just happen today? This was legislation or an announcement that they put out today?
No, the Paris Climate Treaty was like signed 2 years ago. But here in a few days, I think Friday, they're going to start to enforce these measures. And this is you in Agenda 21 stuff. This is where you get into a whole other topic of conversation, but maybe we can keep focused on the solutions.
We can do that. Well, I have to say, I know, I've been following your posts on Facebook, getting ready for the show, and just kind of, checking in on you to see where you're at with some things. And I'm really curious what you think about this upcoming election. Not to bring politics into it, but how can you not bring politics into it with this topic?
Totally.
What do you think's going on with this? What do you think's going on? What's the dynamic that you're feeling with the two candidates? And they really haven't talked much about their position on this topic. In fact, they've done nothing really except just, mudslinging at each other. But where do you feel the best possibility might be with new leadership in this country?
Well, unfortunately, both of them bow down to the fracking and oil industries. Donald Trump has publicly stated he's going to put through the Keystone Pipeline. When Hillary Clinton's asked about fracking, she just kind of laughs at people. So the powers that be, they run this political theater in front of us, and either way, the oil companies win. You know what I mean? They have their bases covered with whatever candidates are left at this point. Every year we lose, and they keep the status quo going.
Agreed. What do you think is going to change that? What do we need to do really to get people to understand the gravity of using oil the way that we use it? I mean, there's a lot of people out there who's done a lot of good research and offered a lot of wonderful alternatives, but it just seems like every time someone has some kind of answer to a solution, they're just suppressed, they're harassed, they can't get anything out to do anything. The patents are bought up. Things are taken out from under their feet and stuffed in a closet somewhere.
That's unfortunately very true. I mean, even if you're a movie star like Jack Nicholson, who back in '78 had a company that showed solar arrays performing electrolysis on water to compress hydrogen gas, and they converted a Chevy Caprice to run on pure hydrogen gas with zero emissions. So for me, it's very frustrating. I'm like a Rolodex of all these different zero pollution ways to fuel our society that essentially are just shut down. And from out here where I'm at, I spent several years out here in Hawaii trying to convert our sewage treatment centers into hydrogen fueling stations. The state had $10 million in a fund for the infrastructure to be built. But that $10 million disappeared, and we have zero hydrogen fueling stations. But what we do have are $100 million lawsuits from the environmental companies that blocked the hydrogen fueling stations from going in. So it's real interesting to see how communities get steered by their local, do-gooder nonprofits that are actually on the side with the United Nations in local community planning. And that's why we don't have, renewable hydrogen fuel in Hawaii currently. So when that business plan got shut down of mine, I shifted over to trying to make these water spark plugs.
Now you have the intention to build these prototypes, and what is your hope once these are built?
What's my hope once they're built?
I'm sorry, what's your hope when they're built? Are you hoping to take them to be manufactured? Are you hoping to take it to the public to help you do this? What's your goal
Absolutely.
On the other side of the prototype?
Well, my plan is to have a reality TV show called Green My Ride, where we take these gas-guzzling muscle cars from the 60s and 70s and convert them to run on water.
Wow! That's brilliant, actually.
Yeah, I think that would be a good way to reach the masses and show how the technology works, and that way we get to start doing some testing too on these first run vehicles that are hooked up with these kits. So that's the start. I think that's the start. Once people see the technology working in a TV show format, I don't think you could stop it then.
Well, you get all the hot rods and get everybody interested in the big fancy cars and then show them how they can all be converted over to running on water. What could be more fascinating than that?
Exactly.
Well, it's hard to do these shows sometimes because there's so much technical stuff involved, and you have to get into a lot of that when you describe some of this stuff. But I think people really need to hear it and understand it's not only technical, but it's also very easy. This is kind of an easy thing to do, correct? You take your kit and you can transform your current vehicle into running on water. Is that how it is? Is I understanding that correctly? I mean, why wouldn't everybody on the planet want that?
It
could go out
like an obvious
your
solution.
Car in the driveway right now and transform it. You could go out to you have three. Have a car, 2 cars, 3 cars. You have a family full of cars, and you can change all of them to running over on water, and you can stop the companies in a sense in their tracks, right? Because once you don't have to buy gas. Boy, that sure does change a lot of the infrastructure for the current system. You would have a lot of resistance to that, I would think.
Yeah, it's sometimes my shoes are not comfortable to be in, but I've taken on this mission. I'm happy to do it. Trump has this statement. He wants to make America great again, and he wants to drain the swamps. It's kind of funny. I think if he drained the swamp, he'd try to drill for oil. So to make America great again, I think we should free up the economy, stimulate the economy with free energy technology. I'm not claiming that my water spark plugs are the only, source to our problems. There's many different solutions out there. This is just a way to recycle the vehicles that we have now to work on a fuel that won't cost you anything. It won't pollute the planet. It's a no-brainer, and I would love the support and hope people would see, while we're out there protesting these pipelines, that's awesome to raise awareness towards that. But there's a ton of solutions sitting by that we, could be using right now.
Well, it's true. I know that Standing Rock has become kind of trendy for people to, talk about, and I'm glad. Because, unfortunately, we live in a society where trendy is what gets attention, and some things just need attention. These kind of things do need attention. But, when we had the Gulf of Mexico oil spill back in, I think it was 2008, I did a 2-hour special on that show, and I interviewed about 8 or 9 different guests in those 2 hours from all different fields of the business. And it was amazing to me and shocking to me that more people weren't talking about the situation there and, how much was actually leaking. And it turns out that, some of the salt mines where they store the oil and they store the gas, the companies do that. Not a lot of people know that. We're actually threatened by the hurricane, so the people came second, and the companies were making sure the government and the resources were being protected at the salt mines. And unfortunately, we saw the social aspect of the people sitting on their roofs and being stuck and how Obama didn't do anything. Well, he did do something. He went over to the salt mines and made sure all the oil reserves were protected and the natural gas reserve, the brine hadn't cracked. So, it's like if you don't see behind the scenes, people really don't get what's going on. If they don't do their armchair research, if they don't take the time to be informed, then they just kind of fall asleep to the status quo and just go about their day as usual. I mean, we're really talking about a huge picture here. We can take it as big as you want. I mean,
Sure.
this is a topic that not everybody can get into and really talk about intelligently because they're not informed. Or you could take the topic and you go to certain places or certain venues or certain platforms. We're only allowed to talk about this. We're only going to talk about that. We're not going to get into this.
Right.
We need more platforms where you can just say whatever the heck you want and get it all out and help publicize that and put that information out, good quality information. And, the alternative media is saturated in disinformation, and it's saturated in people who are bought out and sold to the highest bidder. It's become a massive popularity contest, and so they want to keep with what's going to make them profit and money as well as mainstream media. So here we are. We have a show. We're talking about this. You come from Texas oil country, right?
Correct.
So how was that for you, growing up in the heart of oil country, to realize that at this point in your life you'd be turning around and trying to change all that?
It's a little awkward. I'll admit my own family's even invested in the natural gas business in the East Texas area. So it's what I do. They understand, but no one's really a fan of it, because when they see what I'm talking about, it makes them feel uncomfortable. And because no one wants to feel like they're a slave to some energy corporation or some currency based on the energy that we use. It's a topic that makes people feel uncomfortable once they realize the enormity of it,
Yeah, I bet you've had some interesting holiday dinners. Conversation.
Yeah, it's why I'm still single, to be honest with you.
Well, you need somebody who's as passionate. You have a big mission, it sounds like, and so you're raising money. You're doing a crowdfunding campaign, correct, to raise money to create a prototype.
Crowdfunding. That to make a prototype, but I thought I would step back a little bit, because $1 million is quite a bit to raise for the prototyping process. I thought step that down to maybe $10,000, $15,000 or so, and produce a documentary showing the history of hydrogen-fueled cars, and show all of the different inventions and cars that were made to run on water throughout the past 100 years. And that way people can have an understanding of how long this technology goes back and why we're not allowed to use it and what we can do to make that change now. Then I think if everyone saw that film, the prototyping, people would be, this is, I think personally, a huge investment opportunity. Mm-hmm. If you see what I see happening if you see what I see happening in our society right now, things are unraveling and corruption is being exposed. And at the very core of the corruption that runs our society in America is the energy industry. So what I want people to realize is, the Pony Express was the way we communicated over 100 years ago. We were digging up oil and burning coal 100 years ago, too. Now I'm talking to you from a cell phone that's a computer, a camera, and all kinds of stuff in a little handheld device. They've allowed the technology to advance in the communication sector, but we're still producing and using energy the same way we are today as we did 100 years ago. The spark plug hasn't changed in like 125 years. There's definitely a way. It's such a simple thing.
I'm really kind of blown away over here as I'm looking at your website, watersparkplugs.com. And, I had watched the videos that you have on there earlier, and I don't understand how cars work, but you don't really need to understand how cars work. Really, you can watch this, and then you can understand exactly what you're talking about. And it just takes a few questions to clear up some of the, non-understanding or misunderstanding, to really be quite impressed with the fact that you don't have to do all this changing. One of the things Obama said at some point in his presidency, I remember hearing him say this. I can't recall exactly where it was, but he had talked about how, they want to invest in renewable energy. They want to bring it all out onto the platform. But what do they do with all these cars that are already set up for gasoline? Well, it's a slow fade transfer type process. Well, that's a crock. That's a crock, according to this. It's not true.
It is true, and for him to come out at a press conference with the Department of Energy and say that we have no new advancements in energy technology, I was just floored.
Nice.
Here I am showing. I'm posting memes like crazy of the 4 little girls making power generation out of urine. I'm just like, come on, you're killing me right now.
Yeah, I had heard somebody had said that they can fuel cars now, invented an engine that can run on beer, alcohol. And you could literally make your own alcohol at home to fuel your own cars. You wouldn't even need to go to the gas station. Your product, it makes it even easier because you don't even have to fill it up with water. The water comes out of the air naturally. And if you can do that for your homes, I mean, you're talking about a completely changed civilization. You're talking about a global civilizational change.
It would shift everything, and the planet could begin to heal from all the pollution we're emitting from the energy industry. And you know, I'm not picking on anybody's diet, but I'd like to bring up this topic because of these well-funded films like Earthlings and the other ones that's showing what the meat industry does to process, you know, animals into food. You know, obviously people don't want to see that, and it's going to shift your wanting to not eat meat-based food anymore. And what I'm trying to say is the United Nations Agenda 21. It stated back 20 years ago that they were going to try to shift our society off of meat and dairy. You can Google this. UN wants a meat and dairy-free society. And my point is they're using environmentalism and going vegan as a way to save the planet. But they're not producing any energy solutions. And there's a reason for that, because they want to keep control over how we get our water, how we get our energy, everything. So what I'm throwing out there by suggesting you go get an atmospheric water generator, this is a device that's available now. This gives you access to water in your own home out of thin air. And when you realize, wow, I can create water out of thin air, and I could fuel my car with it, wow, I just saved my energy bill. I just saved my fueling bill for my vehicle. I just stimulated my economy, not the oil man. You know, that's...
You just unplugged yourself from the system.
Correct.
Is what you did. You unplugged yourself from the system, because what you're dealing with is it's not that these people are so ass backwards that they cannot fathom changing these industries. They actually just don't want to lose the money. It's pure greed.
Correct. It's control, yeah.
I mean, it's zillions of dollars.
Yeah,
I mean,
this is how they essentially run our society right now. So this is why they fight so hard to keep technology like this off the shelves.
Oh, they're just going to keep doing it too until somebody changes it somewhere. Maybe it has to change from within. You know, you hear all that all the time as this new agey stuff saying that you have to change from within, right? I think the corporations have become these energetic entities that we have to actually shamanize and soul retrieval and do all this stuff to, because God, they've become their own completely sustainable systems, and you have to actually break into them to really understand. So maybe somebody's listening to this that's in the energy world or in the industry, or I don't know, maybe we need to really talk to the conscience of these people who are working within these companies and say, hey, guys, you got to wake up. Your paycheck isn't the end all. You're destroying the world for the kids. You're destroying the world for the rest of us. And you're not only destroying it for humans, you're destroying it for all life. I mean, one of the biggest things that I was affected by my trip to Standing Rock was not only seeing the solidarity, but also how that still quite wasn't there as a message. It was more about the Native American issue, more about it being Native American land. They turned it into a kind of a racial thing. And I'm thinking, hey guys, animals drink water. The plants drink water. Your crops drink water. I drink water. It doesn't matter what skin color. We all drink water. This is not just a Native American issue. This is, I mean, they have to use that because of the law, the way the law is set up. But the law is set up to completely safeguard the corporation system. Aaron Swartz was a huge eye-opener case for that. You know, he's dead. He can't speak to anything now. They killed him. But he broke into the data and he proved that the justice system is rigged to benefit the corporations. It's written to benefit breaking the law.
Sure.
So when people go and they try to stand up to these big entities, what options do they have, really, except to open up their mouths and speak real loud from every pulpit that, you know, they can be heard from? or do they make some kind of stink, try to get through the legal system? I don't see how it's possible for people to really make drastic, hardcore, culture-changing change without some kind of huge, drastic upset. What do you think?
Well, I totally agree. There's, one person or even a small group of people can't take on the U.S. government and the oil industries that run it. This is going to have to turn into a huge movement like the anti-GMO movement for us to get any traction at the Department of Energy and these devices freed up for public use. That's just how I feel about it. From the hurdles I've had to get smashed down on, it's because there's just lack of public support for this. I think, I've been doing this for 10 years, telling people, why, hey, we can fuel our society with water. And it's shifted from, oh, you're crazy, that ain't true, to, yeah, you're right, but they just kill people who invent cars like that. So we've gone from total denial to the technology to accepting that it's real to just now we're accepting, we're just not allowed to use it. I need us to go really quickly into, God damn it, we all need to demand it now.
Yeah. Well, the GMO movement I've been watching for a long time. I've always felt intuitively that was going to be a big issue, and I think it causes autism, actually. I think when you combine the GMO food product with vaccines and other environmental factors, you actually create such a toxicity in the body that the human body ends up mutating, and that's why we're seeing a lot of the things come through the next generation, because the GMOs affect the genetic makeup of the mothers while they're pregnant. So when you consume GMO foods, you are actually passing on that genetic modification to the next generation, literally.
Terrible. Yeah.
Well, it is. And so until people really started to get it, and by way of social media, by way of mouth, having conversations, the conscious consumerism takes over and people don't buy the products. And really what it comes down to is if you refuse to buy the products, you affect the bottom line. That's the only way corporations are going to pay attention to what you want. So,
yeah, but unfortunately, we don't have choices. We don't have choices when it comes to fueling our cars right now.
No, we don't. We have a Tesla car that you can plug in, but they only make a few of those, and they're very expensive, so the average person can't. It's not really a practical solution. It's more of a luxury. And it feels to me like it's more an experiment to see, let's put this out there and see what happens. But when you put a car out there that actually you don't have to go to the gas station anymore and you can just turn on and it takes the water from the air, you're not using the aquifers. You're exactly right when you say that these nuclear power plants use X amount of gallons of water daily. I mean, we have such a disaster happening on this planet. And when people hear me say that, they get, Hillary, you're such a fear monger. Well, grow up. Because you have to listen to this. You have to understand that the things that we're dealing with, we are the generation that's going to change it. And then we have to teach the younger generation coming up to seek answers and solutions by way of different ideas. And so, I don't know. I think the answer is going to be a combination of us doing our heart work, and then also the new generation coming up and having the passion like you have to follow these different routes of, manufacturing and innovation to be able to really come up with some solid solutions. I'm going to make a prediction, Daniel. I want to share this with you. I think whoever invents the way to clean up the garbage patches in the oceans is going to be the next savior. Have you heard about the garbage patches in the ocean?
Yeah,
our water systems are bad. We got problems.
And that's because of the oil industry needs something to do with this waste, so they make plastics with it. We could all have biodegradable hemp plastic.
Right, but that would mean making marijuana legal.
No, hemp is not marijuana.
Well, they need to do that too. They need to make it all legal. There's a lot of alternative options that we have here, and it just seems to fall flat every time somebody comes out with something really good. There's a few advocates that go out and spread the word, but again, it just always seems to fall flat. And I think that's because when it comes to the manufacturing process and the patent process, the governments go in and scoop up all the patents. They own the patents, pretty much, and they don't let other people make it.
I kind of worry because I've been trying to promote this project that sits on the table for several years. I've spoken to several interested parties that either wanted to buy me out or shelve the technology. I think both really. Just they weren't good deals. I probably shouldn't even be talking about it, but this technology isn't going to go anywhere because I think personally my idea has probably already been patented by one of several other interested parties that I've spoken with already. I was watching the story of Harley Davidson on TV, and this rival company ended up patenting all of the components within the Harley Davidson motorcycle. And I don't have the funds to put patents on the stuff I'm talking about now, but I know several people that I've spoken with do. So whether or not I get to a point where I have a working prototype, there's all kinds of hurdles I have to overcome from the people that are trying to rip me off. Yeah. So my point in trying to go through this story is you're absolutely right. There's so many obstacles to overcome with trying to do something like what I'm trying to do that I'm at a point now where I'm just having fun with it, and if it doesn't turn into anything, then fine. I've educated people to a reality that they could have had.
Well, I think you have a great idea with the reality show. I mean, that's really where you have to hit the masses where the masses are. You got to meet them where they are. And where are they at? Reality TV.
Yeah.
I mean, the masses,
I agree.
I'm not talking about. I know my audience is a bunch of very well-educated, well-aware, awake people. Because I hear from you guys. You reach out and you talk to me. I hear from you. I know you know your stuff. But there are people out there, who do live and breathe by the nightly news. They live and breathe by their newspapers. They live and breathe by mainstream media. They are influenced by propaganda, and they are just brainwashed to no degree to go to work, pay their bills, and that's it. Right? Maybe take a vacation if you're lucky. But what happens when you break the cog, you kind of get the hamster off the hamster wheel as the hamster starts to realize there's more out there than just the wheel. And unfortunately, until you start reaching people, and maybe it won't be you to bring it out. I think what you're doing is commendable. I think you have a phenomenal idea and product. And the more that we understand it, I mean, I was curious. I didn't know a lot about it before I asked you to come on the show, because I wanted to understand more about it. I wanted to hear and ask you the questions on the air myself too, because I didn't really understand what you were talking about until you broke it down and explained it. So if somebody comes along and unfortunately we live in a highly competitive society as well, and steals your idea and puts it out there and has $1 million to put it out there, and then it gets out there, and then all of a sudden people have the option to fuel their cars this way. I mean, how would you feel about that? Would you feel that it was pulled out from under your feet, honestly? Like that's mine kind of thing? Or would you be happy to see it come to fruition regardless?
Well, I would be absolutely astounded to see it come to fruition. For me to claim that this is my idea is absurd. I've never done that. There's several inventors that I cite that have come before me that obviously their work inspired me to come up with my version of this technology. So just to be real, clear there, I'm just an average guy. I'm just an average good Joe who sees, a huge opportunity and a way to benefit the planet and everyone on it, all the animals. This is just to me, it's a huge opportunity, and things would have to drastically change in our political system for these water spark plugs to be allowed, or numerous other inventions that can change all of our lives for the better. So it's not going to be up to me. I can try as hard as I can. You know, I'm not a public speaker by any means, but thank you for giving me the opportunity to hone these skills in to try to explain the technology to people. It helps me so much. But it's not going to be up to me or even a small group of people. This has to be really like a mass awakening. So,
well, I think that's what you're helping to. Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I said you're helping to do just that. I was agreeing. I was saying that you are. It's kind of like fate. I mean, really, you found yourself in the center of the oil country. You were raised in a family who lives and breathes in it. You understand that part of it because there are really real lives that'll be affected by the shutting down of these industries. It's not just the zillionaires losing all their money. We're talking about an industry that employs a lot of people globally. So we would be talking about a whole change of changing of the guards with everybody. Really, they'd have to redefine their lives, and I'm sure you could understand that, how that would affect your own family. So the fact that you're even coming out and saying, hey guys, listen to this, I have a product here that could change and revolutionize the entire industry, and your own family would be affected by that. Clearly you're doing this from a deeper, meaningful, save the planet kind of way, because you're not thinking about yourself, you're not thinking about your money, your family's pockets, although I'm sure it runs through your mind. But you see the bigger picture.
For me, it's self-preservation. Really, I'm greedy that way. I guess I just want to, live in a planet that's going to be able to thrive. And at the current rate or the current path we're on, that's just not possible. The reason there is a depopulation agenda going on right now is because of the way we currently sustain our society with energy. If you watch these TED Talks with Bill Gates, he openly states and explains how using vaccines will help this situation. Personally, I think introducing free energy technology into society will help everyone's situation except the top 1% that control the energy.
We can make new jobs and create a new industry to, rehire people who work within these industries who depend on their paychecks for their lives, their livelihoods, support their children this way, they pay their bills this way. We can find different jobs for these people. We can realign our society. If we can do it with currency, which we are doing as we move to a digital currency, I'm convinced that's going to be the thing a couple of decades down the road even, then we can definitely revamp the free energy industry. I mean, I've interviewed a lot of people in my 10 years on the air. I've talked to a lot of people. I've talked to a lot of people who come out with information. I'm really kind of picky about who I talk to now, Daniel. I saw your stuff. I said yes. Because I want to talk about solutions. I want to talk about things that give hope. Instead of just going through concepts and theories and dissecting books and going through people's, whatever they've put out into the world, I want to talk about something that's going to make a real change. That is an actual, carrot dangling in my face that's worth me getting off my butt to go chase, right? I mean, this is something that we really have an opportunity here. And with so many people going on the bandwagon with Standing Rock Camp and jumping on the oil industry this way, I do see it as a good thing, because the more awareness people have short attention spans thanks to technology today. And if you're not entertaining someone within the first 2 or 3 seconds of something, you've lost them. So from a marketing standpoint and anything, and I believe the world is run by master marketeers, that's my own opinion, they will absolutely turn anything into a sell. Well, let's do it with this, guys. Somebody out there, wake up. Open up your consciousness, realize you need to do the right thing, and for God's sake, do it. Right? I don't care what it is. I don't care. Act. Take action on it. Go do it. Go fund this project. Go research it. Go read the book. See what we can do for this. See how we can help it. And for God's sake, if you have something, I have a radio show. I can do an interview. That's how I help. I can spread out the link through my social media platforms. I can bring up the conversation at dinner. I can tell people I've interviewed Daniel, got to go read Daniel Green's book. You got to do this. Or if you're a listener, I heard this show, Hillary was talking to this guy who did this. Pass it on, guys. Pass it on. Go to YouTube, share the link. Everybody's on YouTube now. YouTube is becoming the new TV. Take this link from the radio, from Achieve, and share it. Share it on your social media platforms. Make it important. Make it fun. Do something creative with it. But for God's sake, get it out. Because otherwise, we're accomplices in this destruction. We're standing by and doing nothing makes us accomplices in some ways. Don't you think, Daniel?
Absolutely. We are all compliant, and that needs to change. So there's many solutions sitting by, ready to be funded. The opportunity I'm offering is 20% of my company for $1 million in seed capital, and that's not funding me in my garage trying to make nanotechnology. This is a lab in Canada with a team of engineers who have agreed to start this project. So it's a 1-year project, and $150,000 to $200,000 of that million is for third-party testing to prove our invention is legit after that year. Once we have the third-party testing verified, that's when we start the Green My Ride TV show, and we start converting cars to run on water. And then they can't stop us. And thank you so much for having me on your show and giving me the opportunity to talk about this.
I want to see this show of yours. It sounds great. I mean, just the name of it sounds fantastic. I can see it on TV. I have the vision. So it's got to happen. I mean, this really has to happen. We're going to end up contaminating this world's water. And you know what, guys? Just because a spill happens somewhere else, even out of the country, doesn't mean that contamination doesn't reach you somehow, because the water cycle is a global cycle. So if you have a spill in another country, or we have a spill here in our waterways, whether it's our rivers or our creeks or our the oceans, it's going to make its way through the water cycle globally eventually, and you're going to be breathing it in, you're going to be drinking it in, our bodies are going to become so overwhelmed, we're either going to mutate to adjust, because that's what nature does, or we're going to get sick, and we're gonna have short lifespans. And I think honestly, I don't think they care. I don't think the powers that be really care if you have a short lifespan or not, because you do your job, you go to work, you pay your insurance, you get it's the whole thing. I mean, you're talking about a system that is absolutely dedicated to fossil fuels and the power structures that it creates. I mean, you're taking on everything. Do you know why you haven't? You probably have had a bunch of people come up and try to feel you out. Honestly, I mean, that's what they do.
Well,
they go in.
I didn't want to bring this up, but I'd like to say on the air, I will never kill myself. I'm not suicidal, but in the past 6 months, I've had some scary things happen to me. I woke up on the floor of a restaurant. Not sure why that happened, and then a few months later, I had a brake line cut. So I'm definitely pushing some buttons on many
little
different
trolls.
levels. And
that's what they are, they're little trolls. Well, you know what I say to little trolls? You just get some troll spray. I mean, seriously, I'm trying to make light of it, but I know it's a serious thing, because there are people who do go into these things so well that they become threats, and there's corporate murder. I mean, it's just.
This is very real. I'll share with you. When I was into making hydrogen fueling stations here, my partner, who was the CEO of another company, his name was Guy Toyoma. He was literally a month away or so of selling hydrogen-fueled scooters, and the hydrogen was produced with a solar array and a electrolysis machine. So he was creating essentially fuel from water and solar energy and powering scooters and selling scooters. That was his plan, and then he has a heart attack. This was a good friend of mine. So this is real stuff.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear about your friend, and I'm sorry to hear about your hardships. We are actually at the end of the show, so I'd like to take the last minute or so for you to give the opportunity to let people know where they can contact you if they're interested in helping or finding out more information.
The best way to contact me is mrgreenenergy@yahoo.com. That's MR Green Energy. And I would really like to produce a documentary film showing the history of this suppressed technology. I think the people would love to see that, and then that would hopefully spark.
Filmmakers, listen, filmmakers, attention filmmakers, anyone in the business that's listening to this, get in touch with him. I think that would be a phenomenal documentary. And Daniel, you have the right attitude about what you're doing and how you're trying to reach mainstream, and I commend you in your work. Thank you so much for sharing all of this with us. And I wish you best of luck with all of this. I hope it goes viral and things really take on and start moving. And it's great to see people like you doing this.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity today. Thank you.
Well, everyone, we're at the end of our hour, and God, that's going by pretty fast because it's a great topic. We need to be talking about it more and more. Play the archive, go to YouTube, subscribe, share. Let's make this work. Good night, everyone. I'm Hillary Raimo, and this is Tizian Radio TV.